Okay. Here we go.
I'm Deontay Burton, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Hamidou Diallo.
Hey, I'm Danilo Gallinari.
I'm Chris Paul, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
What's Dort?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what that was.
In English, bro.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
I'm Steven Adams.
I'm Andre Robertson, and I'm down to dunk on you.
Good morning and welcome to episode 8, 3, 2, down to dunk. I am Luke, joined this morning by Andrew,
Slam through.
Taylor,
Strumming my pain with his finger one time. Singing my life with his words two times. Killing me softly with his song. Killing me softly with his song. Telling my slam through.
and Jay.
It's Jay. That's a banger.
Bangers and mash, bro.
I always feel really weird saying banger.
Why?
Do you?
Yeah, I just feel like it sounds like me trying to be hip.
We're disgusting.
What if
Yeah,
you are,
or that.
Jay?
Huh?
What if
Am
you
I
are?
hip? Tell me more.
You're a little hip, Jay.
I'm a hip guy. I've always in my life struggled with hipness because I was always the person that was late to almost every fad.
Yeah.
Like in second grade, I was New Kids on the Block that was the jam. And I thought they were ridiculous, but everybody, especially the ladies, really loved New Kids on the Block. And so one day I showed up and there was like the coolest kid in class. This girl was in her class and I was just like trying to be impressive. And I was like, yeah, I finally got that New Kids on the Block tape. And she was like, that's so old. And I said,
My God.
in my life. Trucker hats. I was late to trucker hats, and then I started wearing them. People just thought I drove trucks for a living.
Late to trucker hats, as if trucker hats was like this super cool.
I guess that's more of just my. I guess that's just more of my, my inability to really look too hip. That's maybe the bigger deal.
I
man.
did want to say something to you, 10 weeks ago when you were still wearing Jinkos, but
Dude, I still to this day remember my favorite pair of khakis I ever had were Jinko khakis, but it was before they got into like the mammoth barrel legs and
yeah,
Jinkos, man.
you have
Wow.
some mammoth barrel leg Jinkos.
No, I never got that big.
Too bad.
I know.
They
Were y'all Jinko boys?
Oh yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
How big did
God, I
your
was
legs
so-
get?
I was so jealous. There was a guy at church that had these just massive legs, and he'd just play pool all the time. They were. It was like he was looking back. He was wearing a skirt, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, they were ridiculous. I never got that big.
No, I didn't either.
Never got that big. Okay, we're going to do our Down to Dunk book club. We're reading the book Boomtown. We're in chapters 7 and 8 this week. If you're following along, I hope that you're enjoying it as much as we are. The chapters this week are called Microwave Popcorn and Sonic's Gate. So let's start with chapter 7, Microwave Popcorn. It's essentially about the land run and what a mess it was.
Crazy. Like I know that we learned about this. I know. But there are so many details of it that I felt like were like brand new. And I was just in love with hearing this part of our story. Like it's so cool. And I just think about like I don't know enough about other people's origin story to whether or not I can tell you that like it seems really unique that the way Oklahoma was started was that way. But it seems really unique that Oklahoma was started this way. And it's kind of cool. Like I thought it was kind of neat to reflect about that. I mean, it's terrible and it's awful and it's chaotic, but at the same time, it's like, hey, at least we have something that's kind of ours.
Yeah. I mean, that's for real. It is unique. It is weird. It is weird to think that that's how it started. I mean, can you imagine now?
That's exactly what I thought. Like what plot of land is not
a plot of
counted?
land is open. It's like, this is how we're gonna do it. This is the best way that we figured that we could do this. And it's just like, that's the best way. That's how you're gonna. Okay.
It actually kind of sounds like the way we're dealing with things these last 4 years anyway. But also, I wanted to say on that, I was thinking, how did they keep 100,000 people like on this line at this barrier until noon?
Well, it sounds like they didn't.
Well, I mean, it seems like everyone pretty much obeyed the rules.
Yeah, but
Come
that's what the Sooners, right? Like the Boomers and Sooners, or Boomers were the ones that went early, and Sooner, I can't remember the specific details, but they were ones that crossed the line early and went and plotted and found their spot.
Sooner is such a funny name now to think about.
Yeah.
Like, who are those people? They're the ones that went sooner. We did.
I mean,
And why did they always try to rhyme everything? Like there's three categories of people in this story. There's Sooners, there's Boomers, and there's Nooners. And it was like back then, like if you titled something in this era of time, that everything had to rhyme.
Yeah.
Poets.
I'm trying to think of what else from that chapter I really appreciated.
I appreciated the part where they talked about how like everyone was just bringing wagons of cattle and all sorts of stuff, like all the things that you'd need to start building a city. And I was just thinking about how insane that was. And they had to cross rivers and all sorts of stuff. They had to have the National Guard escort them to Oklahoma. And they said entire families drowned. Like people were just dying along the way. It's like,
it is wild. That is wild to think about. I mean, I don't even like taking my family on a road trip past like Houston, like imagine going very slow and potentially dying in a river.
Oh yeah.
Well, and for me, I keep thinking about like what obviously most cities today are roughly around where they initially settled. And so, we all have been through Oklahoma. Like what part of the state would people be like flying hot air balloons over waiting to land, right? Like one of the stories that he mentions is hot air balloons flying over that they have to, like what part of the state? And so you look and it's like, well, I guess Oklahoma, but then you look around at the geographic landscape around Oklahoma City, and I'm like,
yeah,
why was this an area that got really picked?
OKC in particular. Yeah.
Like, I guess there's some rivers maybe that were around it, but Tulsa makes sense. Obviously, like Tulsa's beautiful and Tulsa has Arkansas River running right through it. But it's odd if you look at the major cities and be like, why did that one really get picked early on?
Well, and especially think about like the geography and surrounding Oklahoma City. I mean, it's just miles and miles and miles of the exact same thing. How'd they decide? They like just kept going.
And
like,
here, we'll stop here.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they say it's where the river turned?
Yeah, I think that's part of the primary reason it is, but it is like, there is also part of it where I do think is there something where it's like, all right, how far down can we go before we've been traveling the same direction and it looks the exact same for 3 days we lost the Smith family. They got drowned in the river and I'm not going any further. Like it's not going to get any different any further south we go. So just put your freaking stake down here. Stake.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing.
Dig your house.
Do you all when you were in elementary school, which was varying ages or varying years with this
10
group,
years ago for me.
did you all do a land run in elementary?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I don't remember.
We did. Well, you were in Ireland probably. They did not do a land run in Ireland, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we practiced. No, we practiced potato famine.
Oh. But it's fun. It's not ever something I really thought was probably a unique experience for elementary school kids in Oklahoma City until then, or in Oklahoma until then, really. They still do it, at least at Andrew, my son's school. They still do a land run, and it's a big deal for third graders. You have to dress up, and
there were some kids that took it really serious.
Like killing
do?
other people.
Yeah, what do you do to take it serious?
Because you get, how you all line up, and like they were in their like wagons and stuff, and just sprinting to the best spot.
Mhm.
And I was like in first grade, and I was like, man, I can't wait till I'm older and faster, and then I'm gonna get to the best spot. And then I was like in fourth or fifth grade, and I was like, this is stupid. I'm not doing that.
it's funny though. Is in an elementary school, like just one of these quotes here. It says the founding of Oklahoma City, he wrote, John Williams rep wrote, was the most disorderly episode of urban settlement this country and perhaps this world has ever witnessed. And so my assumption is an elementary school land run is not too dissimilar to what the actual land run felt like, where it's
probably true.
Run!
Did you guys have to do like families whenever you did the land run?
Mm-hmm. We had to stay in groups of like 4 that were designated by our class.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like you're the dad.
Well, no, we didn't do anything like that. I don't think.
Yes, we did that. I felt very weird about it. And these are the kids.
That's probably why Luke thought it was so stupid.
Yeah, they made us kiss.
They made us kiss. It was weird because I had like gone through puberty in like the 4th grade already, and so like I was clearly the dad.
Is that true?
Oh, mustache Andrew.
Were you early pube man?
Oh yeah, I was. It's true.
Luke, is it true? Oh, y'all didn't really start connecting.
That's why I'm laughing. I know it is true.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
I was a late pube man.
you were.
Mm-hmm.
Pube man.
I was a big doughy. Isn't that what Taylor just called you?
I don't know.
I did, but it sounds better coming from Jay's mouth.
Does it?
Yeah.
I would disagree with
You
that.
pronounced pube.
I was just a
lot more.
Just a big doughy baby until like 8th grade.
A big doughy pube man.
Pre-pube man.
God.
People gonna be mad at us for this part. They're
I
gonna
don't
love
know.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's always, you never know if it's going to be loved or hated.
Bangelope will not like.
Oh, Bangelope, I'm sorry.
This part. Okay, so the next chapter, Sonic's Gate, is basically the birth of the idea of having an NBA team in OKC. It talks about the Hornets coming here, which I didn't even remember that they had only been in New Orleans for 3 years before that happened.
Yeah, that's
crazy. And I don't think I probably remember this, but I don't remember this, if that makes sense. And so, which it doesn't. I don't remember that the Thunder were close to actually getting them to just stay here.
I kind of remember that.
Like there was such a sentiment to get them back to New Orleans because of all that New Orleans had gone through that I guess I just don't remember that ever being close to a reality. When George Shinn, the owner of the Hornets at that time, and he was awful from what I remember. And anyway, but they ended up selling them to the lady that owns New Orleans, the Saints, and so they are still there. It would have been hard to. Which would have been better, getting a team and benefiting off of a tragedy that killed 1,600 people in Katrina, or getting a team and having to deal with the whiniest fan base in the history of the NBA.
One is so much worse. If getting it out of Hurricane Katrina, I mean, look at it. Look how bad it's been just from a city hating us from the way we did it, and then getting it from oh yeah, we got hit by a hurricane and they took our team and we never got it back. Like they stood up and oh, we're gonna do this noble thing. You can play here, and for a few years, and then they never gave them back. That would look a lot worse.
It'd be way worse. Let's say a tornado just ravages OKC. We can't have the Thunder anymore, and Kansas City takes them for a year or two, and then Kansas City's like, yeah, we're just gonna keep them. We'll just keep them here.
Right.
They should be the rest of the country should be thankful we took Seattle and not New Orleans. You're welcome.
Well, Seattle. I mean, the interesting thing
You
about
should
this chapter,
thank us.
Yeah.
this chapter could be. I mean, there's enough there that they don't like that the book doesn't really dive into for like its own whole book.
Yeah.
Because like, but the best is that like, you know, if Seattle really, really tried and would have done some things to like build a new arena, they would have kept the team. Like they were saying, and our ownership group was doing things that they knew Seattle didn't want to do because Seattle already had said no, they weren't going to do most of it. And so they said, okay, we'll do the stuff, or we're going to find somewhere that did. Oh, it just so happens Oklahoma City has all this stuff. So it, you know, Seattle could have kept them if they'd done, you know, if they had done all the right stuff. They just didn't.
Well, also think about this guy that started Starbucks and clearly has a lot of money. Don't sell your team to an ownership group from Oklahoma City that clearly wants a team in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Howard Schultz, true Sonic fans hate him.
They should.
For that too.
He's an
Like
enemy.
they realize that. But what's crazy is if you think about it, is if like, I don't know, I couldn't tell you an exact timeline, but just a few years later, not long after this, how all went down, when the oil downturn happened, they would have never been able to do what they did, let alone buy, like not just buy the team, like buying the team, fine, but like the amount of money they had to pay to get out of their lease, the amount of money they had to pay in fines and all these different things to the city of Seattle, like,
yeah,
I think it would have been far more difficult for them to be able to move. But at that point, they still had Aubrey, who just literally spent money like crazy to try to get this team moved. And Tom Moore, I mean, all those guys, and they were at the peak of their success as companies. And so, but I don't know, man, this is none of that. And that story was new to me, other than that New Orleans part of it, at least trying to think about it. And it's hard. Like, so here's the question that always comes up in my mind is so number one is remembering like New Orleans still really struggles as a franchise to fill the stadium.
Yeah. The fan interest is very low.
And part of that's because that city has never fully recovered after Katrina. Like population, like a lot of its population moved to Houston and some of those surrounding cities in Texas. And so, but if you were going to look at fans, because I think this is the deal, is the NBA could really, and they couldn't do it because they would have to be way overreaching in their authority, but there are teams that should be moved, like that would make more sense to go somewhere else. And so if you're looking at that, like what teams would have made more sense to be moved?
Than the Sonics?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the Hornets should not have gone back to New Orleans.
True.
They can't fill the stadium when they have Zion Williamson. I mean, that's a disaster.
They couldn't fill it with Anthony Davis, man.
Couldn't
Like
fill it with Anthony Davis.
literally watching him play,
Zion
you're like,
Williamson.
oh, he really is a generational talent. And he's just been in New Orleans.
You put Zion Williamson in Seattle. You're telling me that they wouldn't fill that stadium?
Absolutely. It'd have been insane.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Sean Kemp 2.0, man.
Even put him in the city. You
Okay,
think
so
he's not going to fill that arena? Like
just
they
want-
will.
Just want to clarify Andrew's point right now. Basically, he's making the point we should have taken the Hornets and left Seattle. We should have taken the Hornets after Hurricane Katrina. That's what Andrew's arguing.
Pretty much. Pretty much. It just didn't make moral sense at the time.
Yeah, if you obviously could remove that part of it, which is, not easy to do.
What's it called when a disaster happens and people just start stealing crap?
Looting.
Yeah, Andrew supports looting on the highest level.
On the
White collar looting.
White collar looting. Yeah, I mean, other teams that could probably use a relocation. I don't know, Orlando.
Yeah. I mean, so here's your teams that have the lowest attendance. Now, this is probably unfair because this is just this year, but bottom of the league, the Timberwolves. It's hard. You can't move a team from Minnesota, which it's not the fans' fault that their ownership has been so god awful for so long.
No.
The Hornets are one, but Charlotte's an enormous city, which I never realized until I flew in there one time. Detroit is the one I think that if it wasn't for the rich history they had, it's another city I think that
Their
could
team
lose.
is just so bad.
I know. Atlanta is one of the most surprising low supported teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then you have the Pelicans and the Zards. The Kings are obviously one that, but they have they're not too far off from Oklahoma City as far as fan support. And you remember those 2000 teams, man? That was insane.
They just get a good team.
And Sacramento was like Oklahoma City in 2001.
And if Sacramento had Zion.
Yeah. Or Luka, which they could have drafted.
Or Luka.
A reminder.
Which would have been possible.
Guys, guess what? I've lost my wallet. I'm looking around my house for it, and I'm starting to get a little concerned.
Hope you find it.
Check your
I don't know if I will. I'm gonna check my pants. But I'm so glad that it did work out. Really, the way it's worked out, because I love Seattle's far enough away that I never really, think about it. I've never been there, all that. And they hate us, and I kind of love that they hate us. It really has worked out best for us, I think.
Yeah. I hope they get a team, though. I hope they get a team at some point.
I hope they get a team too, because the rivalry between the two teams, it'd be great.
It would.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'll tell you what, though, they should move Oklahoma City out of the Northwest Division if they got a new team in Seattle.
You think?
Yeah, and they should put them in the Dust Bowl, whatever Mark Cuban.
Oh, yeah.
Major Burn. What did he say?
Mark Cuban, man, that dude's the worst.
The Dust Bowl division.
Cubes.
Cubes.
Oh, Cuban. Early Cuban?
Is he an early Cube-mon?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there wasn't. I loved it. I love the content. I really like Sam's way of writing. Like, I just feel like he just does a great job of drawing you in and making you feel like you're in the story, which I really appreciate. And the history stuff, I just geek out about, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
It is good. It's an easy read. It's going fast. We're only, I'm looking at my little Kindle that I'm reading it on. We're only like 10 or 11% through the book.
Yeah.
True.
We'll get you one way or the other. This is going to get us all the way to the NBA season, whether it's the 2020 to 2021 season or if this season starts back up. So we're going to be reading this book for however long it takes.
We'll slow down the pace if we need to.
Yeah, we may go a sentence at a time. There is a renewed optimism, though, that the league will do something.
Yeah, I think there's a renewed optimism across the country, to be honest, that something could happen.
Yeah.
Just because they're starting to at least lay out some plans for restarting a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of hurdles to jump, and who knows?
Yeah. NBA people that I've talked to that have not been optimistic are starting to turn.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of that Dream Team podcast when you all talked about it, and it's hard. It's hard. I don't like diving into it because it's a lot of us. Like, there's like what's funny or hard is a lot of people. Like, I listen to a lot of different things, specifically in the church world and the basketball world, and there's a lot of people that aren't epidemiologists that are talking about stuff with a certainty of an epidemiologist, right? Like, well, if you get this, and it's like, okay, well, it's hard to have these conversations and recognize, like, hey, I'm getting information from other sources, because a lot of it does come down to feeling. Because I think I don't want to talk too much about this, obviously, but the hardest thing is that we have no certainty. There's no certainty about anything. Oh, yeah. On the other side of this, is it going to be May? Is it going to be June? Is it going to be July? Is it going to be 2030? Like, we have no idea what it looks like, and everybody hears their own information from a different source. And so it's a wild time to really see how information has become so scattered and even, biased or just skewed in one direction or the other. And so it's hard whenever we start having these conversations, because somebody will say something, you're like, I don't think I've heard that.
Jay, is this from the podcast I told you to listen to? Did you listen to it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I told you. I said I liked it. I just thought it was way more. Yes. So he listened to Chris Hayes. What's it
Why
called?
Is this happening?
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
It was interesting because it just talks about information, which I think is the thing that's so confusing. But yes, I feel like there's a growing optimism in general that we have flattened the curve, which is an awesome thing for a lot of people to have sacrificed a month worth of
I
doing
would say
anything.
I would say we are big. We are in the very early stages of flattening the curve. But the problem is that if we open all the stuff, it starts all over again.
It could without some pretty strict guidelines with how we
Yeah.
open up. So
And my other only, we don't have to talk about this forever, but the other thing that's a little frustrating is the Council to Reopen America has no epidemiologist on it.
yeah.
So that's a little frustrating, but
Are you all excited for Sunday, the last dance with the Chicago Bulls team?
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
Do you know that the version on ESPN will not have bleeps? It will be the full cussing version. If you want the family friendly version, you have to watch it on ESPN 2.
Did you see Michael Jordan came out this week and said, I think that after watching this, people aren't going to think I was a very good teammate. I'm like, Michael,
Yes.
we already knew that.
Yes, I'm very excited for it. It's going to be really good.
He punched
told
Steve
Kate
Kerr
we're
in the
watching it.
face.
In the
Oh
face.
yeah, that's a good teammate though, because look what he got out of Steve Kerr after that.
Yeah. Warriors would have never been what they were without Steve
Knock
Kerr.
him loose and Steve Kerr.
Yep.
This is going to be what Durant's going to be saying and doing like before the Oklahoma City Thunder 10 episode documentary like 30 years from now.
Dude, Durant doesn't even have at least Michael Jordan's considered the greatest of all time, so we kind
He
of
won
forgive him for
6
being
championships for that team.
Yeah,
He would have won 8, by the way, if he didn't get suspended for betting.
and
Yeah.
Durant just has.
I'm just kidding. He went and played baseball.
Does not have the dignity that MJ has, or
Yeah.
had back then.
No, I mean,
at
it's
least
MJ, dude.
perceived.
Even if it's not true, like he's defined
Yeah.
as the greatest player that ever existed.
Yeah.
No,
Like
KD
every other
had the-
player is compared to him.
It's
And
crazy. I love reading all this KD stuff coming out from the first person to talk about KD publicly being a little wiener.
Who? What?
Ethan Strauss. This book.
Yeah.
And this Warriors book that came out. It's like wow. It's like, yes, this is everything we know about KD plus
Yeah. And everything it seemed is just perceived slights from KD. Like if someone
Yeah.
gets the game ball that gets less points than him,
Maurice
he's
Spates.
mad about it. Yeah.
It's really,
I have no idea what you are talking about. I haven't heard any of this stuff.
maybe our new book club book after this
Yeah,
one.
it might be next. Jay, there's just a whole lot of little stories about Durant just being kind of a jerk in the locker room and like complaining when other people get the game ball that scored less than him, and like nicknames other players have that like when they aren't scoring, like they've never scored 20 points and stuff. It's pretty funny stuff.
Was he like that in Oklahoma City, Andrew?
I don't know. His reputation surely wasn't that.
No, most definitely not. That's wild. That's good. I mean, not that the PR battle between Oklahoma City and KD was really that much of something. Most people realized how weak that move was. And the hard part is like nobody would justify how pissed off Oklahoma City fans were.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were a few people that were like, it's a weak move. But it's like, it just feels good. It's kind of like when your ex, we've always compared this, and I know there's, whatever holes to this comparison, but when your ex leaves, then people start realizing like, man, she had a lot of problems. It's like, yeah, see, it wasn't just me. It wasn't my fault. She
But
was
now-
crazy.
Now we get to talk to our ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend about it.
Have you ever done that? It's a fun conversation.
No.
That's what this
No.
is. That's what's happening right now. That's what this book is.
It's a little
Yeah,
fun.
it's hard. It's hard for me to get Jack to listen to Ethan Strauss.
He's awesome. You need to give him another chance.
All right, I'll give him a shot.
Okay. NBA draft. 2008 redraft.
Redraft the 2008 NBA draft, which is a really good draft, and I'm excited to do this, although I've stopped at about 15 players.
Okay.
So hopefully I can just draft all those guys.
15. There's a ton of players in this draft.
Yeah, I know. There's at least how many? 50? There's at least 60 of them.
Even more. Undrafted. Anthony Morrow, undrafted.
Oh, there's one more that was undrafted that I thought was useful. Dadgummit. All right. How are we doing? Who's drafting when?
Luke, are you going to stick around for this?
Well, I do. I'm about 2 minutes from having to go to work, so I probably should not.
So I should not give you the first pick.
No, because I would have the first pick, and then that would probably be it.
Okay.
You should do that.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go Taylor, me, Jay. So Taylor, you have the first pick in the 2018 Down to Dunk redraft.
18?
8.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. With the number 1 overall pick, Taylor picks Russell Westbrook to the Chicago Bulls.
The crowd goes wild. Actually, they go, who?
The crowd goes mild.
Crowd goes, what? Russell Westbrook. I mean, at the time, it was a reach to pick him at 4. You know, I mean, I remember
It really was.
I mean, the range that he was going in was closer to like 8, 9, or 10 in that draft. And the Thunder reached, and he ended up being the best player in the draft. And career-wise, it's really not that close as to who the best player is, which is
It really isn't. It's hard, man, to get too far into it to realize. I mean, he's a tier by himself. I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah, he's in a tier all by himself. And it's funny, 3 years in a row, Sam Presti picks the best player in the draft without having the number 1 pick in any of them.
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't say Harden's the best player in that draft. You still
Who's
have
better? Who?
Steph.
Yeah, I mean, Harden.
I mean, I would take Steph all day over James Harden.
Yeah, maybe.
I know it's close. I get that it's close. It's 1A, probably 1B, but I would take Steph. I think Steph is, I don't know, probably one of the most skilled guys I've ever seen play the game. Best shooter that's ever played the game.
If James Harden had the teammates Steph had, if you flip-flop their teams.
Oh, man, it's hard to – I understand what you're saying. I understand that. I just think Steph – I don't know, man. I just think it's a different – I think
Clay
it's a different –
Draymond, prime Clay and Draymond with James Harden.
Sure.
And you put Steph with all the guys that James is.
Yeah, it's hard. I think for me, I do pause just on attitude.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal for me, at least when I evaluate players' attitude and the way people compete. And
Steph is great, especially when it comes to attitude. Great.
Okay,
so that's why,
I gotta go. I see you later.
Bye, Luke. Thanks, man.
I see you.
Hey, love you guys.
Love you, dude. I see you.
Bye, late Puban.
I see you. That's a good argument. That'll be a fun one to have. And we're redrafting that next week. So that's the 2009.
Yeah. But unquestionably, he picked the best player in this draft, which at the time, the hype was Derrick Rose. It was OJ Mayo. It was Kevin Love. That's Michael Beasley. Remember how crazy people were going about Michael Beasley?
Dude, yeah. And part of that was a crazy time where the Big 12 had like back-to-back Naismith winners for players of the year. So the year before this was KD.
Yep.
And KD playing for Texas, it was stupid watching him play in college. I know you remember this, Andrew, but if you were around here and you watched KD for Texas, it was just shocking watching him play basketball. And then Beasley was incredible too. Like Beasley was a really good college player.
He was good.
Yeah. And then the year after this, we had Blake. And so it was like back, just incredible. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Maybe it should have been a red flag that he played for Kansas State.
Yeah, but who knows how much Frank Martin paid him to come play there.
Oh much. Dude. Yeah. So
Was it Frank Martin at that time? I think it was, but who knows? So, all right. So that was Chicago Bulls got Russell Westbrook.
Yep. The number 2 pick. Oh, because everything just kind of drops off a cliff here a little bit. I think I'm still going to take Derrick Rose just for the career that he had when he was at the Bulls, and he's still good today. Like, he's still a good player. But that MVP season was unbelievable. He was one of the more athletic, fun point guards to ever really play the game.
So good.
He won the MVP. Nobody else has won the MVP. So I think that if you're redrafting, I still think that, at 2, Miami's doing a lot better than they did with Super Cool Bees. So I think I'd still take Derrick Rose at this point.
This is pre-sexual criminal, so I'll allow it.
Rose and Dwayne Wade. Man, that would
Yeah, that would
been
be
fun.
sick. Yeah, and you still have a chance to keep him and get LeBron and everybody else because he's on his rookie scale deal.
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
Still.
So with Minnesota at the third pick, I'm going to just go ahead and stick with. They didn't actually draft him, but I would actually take Kevin Love for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And then I would just say, Kevin, it's not worth going to Cleveland. You're going to win a championship, but it's not really going to pay off in any other way.
Well, just don't sign your second deal with them.
True.
Go to Cleveland. Just don't sign your next deal.
Win your championship and then move on. It's hard because we remember most of him from Cleveland. But as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, he was so stupid good in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I couldn't tell you the specific details, but it was an overtime game where the Thunder and Minnesota went back and forth. And it was like, I think Kevin Love, it felt like had 95 points in that game.
He was so good in Minnesota.
Incredible offensive player and insane rebounder. I mean, 2010, 2011, 20 points, 2.5 assists, 15 rebounds a game. 15.
Yeah, that's nuts.
15 for a whole season when he was 22 years old. I mean, that's insane. People forget because then once he gets to Cleveland, he's 16-9. You know, where it's like, okay.
Yeah, and in the whole conversation pretty quickly comes, well, does Cleveland need to trade Kevin Love? Like, can he guard the perimeter? And he's also one of those things he's one of those guys that was a casualty of the NBA switching to a perimeter-heavy game. Because all of a sudden it's like, do you really need a Kevin Love? Now, he could stretch. Like, he could be a 5, but he's just not a great rim protector. If you looked at Draymond and Kevin Love, like on most metrics, you would take Kevin Love over Draymond Green. But I think in the modern NBA, at their most athletic peak, most people would have taken Draymond. Am I wrong to say that?
Yeah,
I think Kevin Love's a better player.
It depends on the team. I mean, you have to have scoring.
That's fair.
If you have Clay and Steph, sure. If you have two of the best shooters in the world, yes. If you're a team that doesn't have anybody that can fill it up, or you only have one guy, Draymond's not your guy. Draymond's like the perfect third piece to like a 1-2 scoring punch.
Yeah.
Kevin Love can be one of your 1-2 scoring punches. You know, I mean, even this year, he's 17 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, shooting 37% on 7 3-point attempts per game. Like he had a good season. He's just played on irrelevant teams for the past 2 years. And that's
which I think brings up like the ultimate question for guys like Kevin Love, which is this championship or bust mentality with NBA players. Like they're only good if they win championships, or they're only elite. It's like Kevin Love could have stayed in Minnesota and probably gone down as one of the greatest power forward scorers and rebounders in the history of the game, but he would have never had a championship.
I mean, yeah, that's probably true, but still, like, I don't
think he would trade it. I think that's just the mentality that people have, right? Like,
would you think that he should have stayed in Minnesota?
No, because Minnesota didn't do anything to help him. Like they never could put a good roster on him. Like they were just so poorly run. Like I understand getting out of there and going to Cleveland for him, but I'm like, it's just hard because he's going to be everything for him personally changed. His greatness immediately had a ceiling put on it when he went to Cleveland. Right? Like he's still good and we know that. But he's just not going to get to this elite level of. I think people would think of Kevin Love very differently if he was on a team where he was still the guy, which he kind of is in Cleveland, but he's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
But if you get to 31 and you haven't made it past the first round, though, I don't think that you.
Yeah, you're right. Huh. Yeah. And I think it just depends on, like, if you could have gone to a team that put pieces around you and still been that guy. And it's hard because he has the chance to do that, but he's just not the same guy. Like he's just, big dudes don't age well, truthfully. Like that's probably the bigger deal, but
yeah. I think he could. I think that if he could get on a different team, that I still think that his perception could change.
What's a
Because
good fit for him?
not Cleveland.
You know what would be, and I don't think they could do this, but you know, if Chris Paul went to the Knicks,
Yeah.
and they just like, hey, let's just be relevant for 3 years, and we can still, like, you could put Chris Paul and Kevin Love and RJ Barrett on a floor and probably make the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty assuredly make the playoffs in the East.
Yeah, be a nice like 7th seed in the East there.
Yeah.
Real nice.
Yep.
Real
I mean,
nice.
if they went to New York though, Chris Paul and Kevin Love are getting hurt for 70 of those 82 games.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
All right, so that leaves Oklahoma City with the 4th pick. Back to you, Tayshawn.
I'm between two guys, and I know who Andrew's gonna pick after I pick this person, and I think it'll be either one. I'm gonna go ahead and take Serge here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
This goes back to I think. Are you gonna take DeAndre next?
No.
You're not? Wow, I thought that was the next two up. But do you remember when we used to have arguments about who is better between DeAndre Jordan and Serge in their peaks?
Yeah, because they were both like shot blocking maniacs at the time.
Shot blocking maniacs were pretty good offensively, but in two completely different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre Jordan, there's one way you can play him defensively. And the only reason that I'm picking Serge over DeAndre is because Serge has just so smoothly and easily been able to fill whatever role he's been asked. Besides Orlando, I feel like Orlando Serge never existed. It's equal to
Orlando feels that way too.
Yeah, Orlando never existed besides Dwight Howard. But I'm going to take Serge here. I mean, in his peak, he was a great 3-point shooter, good rim rolling guy. You know,
I mean, best shot blocker in the league.
Best shot blocker.
Serge is great. I don't know if I would. I mean, I could see it. I think it's valid taking him here. It's not me for Memphis. It's you, Andrew. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Goran Dragic.
Okay.
He's had such a good career. I think he's completely underrated.
Yeah, and it's hard because he just was stuck in the purgatory of Phoenix. For a while, like if he would have had a chance to land somewhere else early, it's so crazy. And this is the thing that these drafts always remind me is like where you land matters so much to what you can become. I think a transcendent player can be transcendent in any market. But I think if you're on this level where it's like, man, if you were just on a team that actually put together something around you, because it's really hard to drag a team through, like, that's what maybe makes LeBron even more impressive is, I don't know if you saw it this week, but they're celebrating that Cleveland team that won 66 games, like a franchise record. And it was like Daniel Gibson and Mo Williams and Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was the craziest roster ever in LeBron. I'm like 66 games. Now the East was garbage at that time. But it's still just so impressive. But you have to be somebody like that to be able to drag a team that doesn't have, and those guys were fine, but it was nobody that was elite outside of him.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at Dragic and it's like, man, if he would have gone and landed, I mean, who knows where, like, it could have been a total different ball game for him because he's incredibly skilled.
Yeah.
He's fitting his role in Miami, man. He's been really, really good in this kind of running that second unit. I think he's one of the reasons they had a lot of success.
Yeah. 16 points per game this year. I mean, he's a really good player. And with everybody else that's left on the board, I mean, he's a game changer. I mean, he's very, very good. And he's a complimentary player to a degree, but he's also a guy that you can give the ball to and he can go create his own shot. And there's just not a lot of those guys left. Really hardly any of those kind of guys left. And I think those guys are really the most valuable in the league. If you can find a guy that can create his own shot and average 20 a game at any point in his career, I mean, that's a big deal. He went 45th in this draft. He's actually selected by the San Antonio Spurs and then traded to the Suns.
Yeah, the Spurs. I mean, he'd have been a great Spurs.
Oh,
Spur.
He is a Spur.
All right, so with the 6th pick, the New York Knicks are going to select Brook Lopez.
Ooh, Brooke.
Brooke.
Talk about an underrated career. And the way he's been able to reinvent himself on this Bucks team, even though he was abysmal from through this year. Brook Lopez was incredible in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard not to think about when OKC had Brook Lopez, like, on, if you remember the story, supposedly, I remember Bobby Marks has talked about it, but Brook Lopez, whenever they traded for Enes Kanter, Brook Lopez was like, they were this close to pulling the trigger on Brook Lopez, but Brook wouldn't commit to staying in Oklahoma City. And so they ended up going over to the Jazz and getting Enes Kanter instead. I mean, you don't draft Steve at that point, or Steve wasn't already on the team.
Yeah, he was already on the team.
So you have Steve and Brook, and maybe you can move one of them. But they could kind of have worked together the same way that Ennis did. But I don't think Steve ever becomes what he became if you have them.
Steve was already who he was.
But I'm saying, like, you couldn't start Steve over Brook Lopez.
I mean, they would have.
Yeah.
Not back then. I mean, I feel like they would have traded for Brook to start.
I don't.
Back then, dude. I mean, Brook Lopez was like, what year was that? 14?
This was 2015. Yeah, 14-15.
Yeah, I mean, Brook was like, shoot, what was he? He was like 23 points per game or something.
Yeah, but at this point, he was a dinosaur. He hadn't started shooting threes yet.
Yeah, he was back to basket. Like, he was slow-footed. He wasn't incredible, but I'm telling, like, if they could have found this,
he took 10 threes that whole season. 10.
How many did he make, Andrew?
1.
Oh my gosh, that's 10%.
So this is crazy. So 14, 15. Yeah, 14, 15, he took 10. 15, 16, he took 14. And then 16, 17, he took 387.
Because don't forget, he signed in Milwaukee on that deal was like nothing. That first contract he had in Milwaukee was like, didn't they pick him up off the scrap heap?
It was a minimum contract.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee, his first year. But remember, until he got to Milwaukee, he played another season in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Then he played for the Lakers. And then he played for Milwaukee.
You think it's too high? You think you think I've got a recency bias on how good he's been the last 2 years in Milwaukee?
No, because he was good the first part of his career. I mean, he made an all-star team in 12-13.
He had a broken foot too. He had that Jones fracture. He made the Jones fracture known before Kevin did.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his career. I mean, 4 seasons, he's averaged 20 points or more. I mean, that's good. He's a good player.
Yep. All right, this is back to Taylor with the LA Clippers.
I'm looking at careers here, and I don't know why DeAndre Jordan wouldn't go right here. There's way more fun players to take, but I'm just saying, like, F it, I won't take him either. Let's go Gallinari here.
Did you know DeAndre Jordan's first name is not DeAndre?
What do you mean?
His first name is Highland.
Highland?
Mm-hmm.
Is he Scottish?
Highland.
I think
DeAndre
so.
Jordan Jr. There's another Highland DeAndre Jordan out there.
I just want to mention this. Like I've said this every week when I've gone here. I've been just watching NBA highlights from time to time and just all-time plays. And the DeAndre Jordan dunk on Brandon Knight is still the greatest posterizing in the history of the NBA. There's 2 of them that I remember more than any. One is DeAndre, and then the other one, and mainly because I just don't like Portland at all, is when LeBron James dunked on Nurkic so hard that the joy deep in my soul just welled up. Those 2 dunks are the dunks that I remember more than any others right now.
What about that one game that Blake had 2, like, the greatest posters ever, both on Pau Gasol in one game?
Lots of Blakes. There's lots of Blakes out there.
There are, but it's, for me, is the DeAndre Jordan one was so.
Oh yeah, that's the best one. That one is like
just damaging. Brandon Knight literally never played basketball again.
just damaging.
Damaging, man.
It did. I think it ruined Brandon Knight's career.
You took Gallinari. Let's talk about Gallinari's career. It just still is a little weird that he's on the Thunder. to me.
Yeah, I
He's
know.
so good.
He was
is
on
so
the Thunder.
good. He was
Yeah.
on the good point.
I
I mean, from his rookie year, he's averaged up somewhere between 14 and 20 points the rest of the year.
if it wasn't for injuries, he would probably be higher on this list, right?
Yeah, probably so.
And any defensive capabilities too.
And being able to move his feet, that would also help.
It would be helpful. That would be helpful. He's just such an elite offensive player. Like, it's insane to watch him play, how easy it is.
Yeah.
It's still my favorite part about Gallo, though, is his odd cutting to the rim game. Like, it's every time he dunks, I'm shocked. That's my favorite part of Gallo's game. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I forgot he could do that.
I can't believe he played in Denver as long as he did. 7 seasons? What is this? 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5. 5 and a
It's
half,
the
and
city.
then one was out a whole year.
If you remember at the beginning of the season, one of the things they talked about is like, Gallo, we know it's going to be hard being in Oklahoma City because you've played in New York and you lived in LA. And he's like, what you guys forget is like, Denver's my favorite place that I ever lived. Like,
Yeah.
I loved being in Denver.
He was there for most of his career. That's insane. It does not feel like that.
What's it feel like to you?
It feels like New York and a little bit of Denver, and then the clip, and then like he's back on the radar for the
Yeah,
Clippers.
he was in New York for 2.5 seasons.
For me, as it feels like Gallo has been more of a journeyman. Like, he's one of those guys that's played for like 10 teams, but really it's not. He was in Denver for such a bulk of his career.
This is only his 4th team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Gallo and mommies.
Pretty wild.
So
He's
that
like one of the greatest offensive players in this league for the last 8 years?
if you look at just his 3-point shooting,
Just scoring ability, just offensive, like getting to the line, scoring. I remember getting so mad because Gallo would just get to the line so much when we played Denver. I remember that more than anything else.
he's so
about
good,
him.
man. I like Gallo,
Yeah.
especially now that he's a Thunderman. He's a Thunderman.
He's clearly just a role player because he's not like he's a really good offensive player. He's really efficient, but he's never been like the guy. You know, he's not, and you can tell that he doesn't really want to be the guy on the Thunder. Just by the way he carries himself and by the amount of times that he shoots it per game.
It feels like he's had a good time though, right? Like, it feels like he kind of is just enjoying his little role where there's not a lot of pressure on him. And
Yeah. I mean, he's never taken, and it's funny I say that he's taken the most field goal attempts per game with the Thunder this season. That's his career high in field goal attempts. Isn't that weird?
It's just weird that for a guy like that, he's never broken 14 shots per game. Like a guy who's that offensively capable and dependable.
Yes, he should have had seasons where he's taken 17, 18 shots per game.
Yeah.
And then he would average 25 a game.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't wait to watch this team again.
That would have happened.
They're so much fun.
That is a weird stat that's his career high in field goal attempts.
14 a game.
Not even.
13.6. That is just wild.
Andrew Milwaukee.
I will take. I won't take Joe Alexander, which is who they took.
Come on.
He's a Mountaineer Hall of Famer.
Number 8 in the draft. I'll take DeAndre here.
Okay.
DeAndre Jordan. He's obviously still playing in the league, and the perception of him now is that like he's washed up, doesn't care about defense, blah blah blah. But he had such an incredible stretch with the Clippers, and he made an All-Star team in 2016-17.
He never won Defensive Player of the Year, did he?
I don't believe he did.
I don't think so.
But he was. I mean, he made some all defensive teams.
Oh yeah, he was up there.
He was good. DeAndre Jordan was good. He's limited. Like, he doesn't do anything for me. He's not quite a dinosaur because he can still rim protect pretty well. But everybody was pretty like, why are the Nets giving him a contract and money?
Yeah. Especially after his year in Dallas.
Oh, and
really
that
bad.
Dallas, New York stint was not very good.
New York was really bad. You know, but his stint with the Clippers was long enough. He had like a long enough tenure where he has double every year and shows up and blocks shots.
Oh yeah, he led the league in field goal percentage for most of those seasons too. All he does is dunk, but
71% from
That's
the
insane.
yeah. I mean, he's making everything, and also
And
a lot of that goes to Chris Paul. A lot of that goes to Blake. Both were incredible passers and guys that took all the attention. They had JJ Redick. I mean, those were really good teams. That's a team. And I was talking to Fred Katz about this the other day. Like there are teams that are so celebrated that never really accomplished all that much. And for whatever reason, Clippers are not a team that are celebrated.
yeah, I never listened to that. I know JJ Redick did I think it was with the Ringer maybe, but JJ Redick did a conversation, or maybe it was Matt Barnes. I'm not sure.
He has his
Did a
own
conversation.
JJ does.
What? Say that again.
So JJ has his own podcast.
Yeah, but one of the two of them, I can't remember who it was, but they did a conversation on why that Lob City team never became what they could have been.
Yeah.
Because if you put a team together on paper that was like, I mean, that's pretty elite at 4 different positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just lost to the Rockets with Josh Smith and Corey Brewer.
Lost to the Thunder.
Yeah, that one was fantastic. Just blew that game. Okay, so Charlotte. This is where it starts. I think this is where another tier maybe starts. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, for sure.
Guys that you don't get super excited about.
These guys are all role players moving forward.
So I'll go ahead with Charlotte. I'll take Eric Gordon.
Yeah, he's the next guy for me as well.
I don't really have anything to say about that. Eric Gordon is another guy that had a lot of injuries and found himself for a couple years in Houston, but doesn't seem to be the same guy quite yet this year. So I don't know.
Can you name 2 of his 7 nicknames?
No.
Let me see if I can. Hobbit.
The Hobbit is 1.
The Hobbit. E.T.
No. If we're going by
E.G.
Alex's rules, you're out already.
Oh man.
E.G.
E.G. E-Money. E.J.
Splash Gordon.
3G. Air Gordon.
Okay.
I like
There they
Splash
are.
Gordon.
You want to hear this stat about Eric Gordon? He's played just 1 more game than Roy Hibbert for his career.
And Roy Hibbert's been out of the league for like 3 years.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right. Tayshaun, you got the Nets with the 10th pick.
I'm going Nick Batum here, man.
Oh, okay.
I love Nick. When Nick Batum was in Portland, I loved that dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him, like with Charlotte. He just
He
has
went to
not been the
Charlotte?
same guy since he's left Portland. But in his early 20s, God, that dude was so good.
He was the guy you wanted. He would have
Yeah.
been he's a perfect wingman
Yeah.
for this era.
Mhm.
Perfect. A good shooter. I mean, an okay shooter. Good scorer, good assist man, good rebounder, good defensive player. He was just your all-around guy, your everything guy.
He's another one of those guys that took a giant contract and
Yep.
faded
Feel that.
into oblivion because he's been stuck in Charlotte for too long.
And what's
It's
wild?
interesting, like
Yeah, go ahead.
statistically, he has some of his best seasons in Charlotte. But it just didn't matter when you're on a team that
Yep.
doesn't win.
It's relevance.
And you really shine through. A player like Nick Batum really shines through when your team is winning. Like those Portland teams with Wes Matthews and LaMarcus and early Dame, God, they were so fun.
Dude, the West in that era was just unbelievable because that was
Yeah.
the Thunder at
Yeah.
their peak. The Spurs were still incredible. Portland, Clippers, Lakers were still somewhat relevant towards the end of that or some of that.
Oh yeah. It was so good.
Same with the West today.
True. It just, it's
The
yeah,
West
true.
just remains what it is. Yeah, Batum is interesting. I mean, his last year in Portland, he was 9 points, 4 assists, 5 boards, 32% from 3, 40% from the field. And like his shooting numbers, he had 1 good shooting season in Charlotte. Everything else has been below his career average. It's just, you wonder if maybe he's a guy that once this contract is done, that maybe he could land in a spot and be a good role player. But like this season in 22 games, he's 3 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
He's
only
31. I don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know. It's a weird one.
It is weird.
It's back to you, Andrew.
Okay.
The 11th pick.
Gosh, this and even more. I think I'm going to take George Hill.
Yeah.
George Hill is a guy that has been on mostly relevant teams, which has helped him. Because if George Hill is just on bad teams, I don't think that we think of him as really anything, you know.
Mhm.
But he's 33. He's on the Bucks. He's played really well for the Bucks this season. He shot 48% from three for the Bucks this season,
Crazy.
which is insane. But he played for those Spurs teams his first 3 years and was very good. Got traded for Kawhi Leonard to Indiana, and then he was a part of those Indiana teams that were just incredible on defense. You know, making the conference finals, battling with the Heat. And he's a big part of that team. Then he kind of bounces around a little bit: Utah, Sacramento, Cleveland, and then he's found himself on another contender, Milwaukee. But he just remains like a helpful player. He's a good defender. He can shoot it from three. He's not a guy that's going to create his own shot necessarily, but he averaged 16 points per game one season in Indiana, which feels weird to me that he averaged that much. So 16 points, 5 boards, 4 assists.
Wow, it says he averaged almost 17 in Utah.
Yeah, that year in Utah was very strange.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Remember it. Oh, that's because it's 16-17, Jay. That's why.
Yeah.
We were not giving a crap about anyone else outside of Russ that year.
No, that's true. I did not watch anybody else play basketball that year.
Yeah.
All right, so it's my pick, the 13th pick. No, sorry, the 12th pick. I'm going to take Courtney Lee, I think. I don't feel great about it, but that's who I'm taking because I don't know.
Oh man, Courtney Lee here, huh?
I don't know. Courtney Lee was always – I always feel like Courtney Lee was better in theory than maybe he was in reality. Probably as an Oklahoma City fan because you always just wished that he would come and play in Oklahoma City. Like it was always the dream. But look how many teams that dude has played for.
Hold on, I'm pulling him up right now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different teams.
Oh wow. Yeah, let's see. Going through here. I mean, he was a guy that his reputation always kind of carried him because he was a pretty good 3-point shooter, but never took that many shots.
No. So this is, if you look at his career 3-point percentage, like his highest 3-point percentage is actually this year, which is insane.
Yeah.
But he's only taking 2 a game.
Yeah, he's only taking 3 shots.
He's playing 14 minutes a game, taking
3 shots.
He's only taking 2 3-pointers a game.
Yeah.
So, but if you look at his highest, I mean, he shot almost 4 in 17-18 for New York. I don't know, man. He's just, like I said, I think he's always been a guy that was probably better. Like he would have been a guy that would have benefited maybe from the right team, but the dude, it's not for lack of shots, man. He had 8 different chances to be on the right team, right?
Yeah.
Just probably telling a story.
He was on good teams. He was on like some pretty good teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this season he's played 24 games. Like he doesn't even play.
Yeah.
He's taken 82 shots on the season. Yeah, he was crucial to that Orlando Magic team in his rookie season.
Was that the Dwight Howard? Was that the team that went to the finals?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And then he went and played for New Jersey, and then he just kind of bounced. But yeah, he's a solid role player, shooter guy.
He's one of these guys that's interesting. Like rookie year, he only played for 1 year with the team he was drafted by.
Yeah.
Who did he get traded? What happened for that? Do you know?
Yeah, Vince Carter.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, what pick are we at?
What in the world? We are at the 13th pick. It's Portland.
Is it me?
Not that it matters,
Andrew?
but it's Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it.
We'll stop at 14 with the lottery.
Oh, dangers.
It's good because I'm running out of players.
Who has not been picked yet?
Anthony Randolph, Michael Beasley, JaVale,
OJ Mayo,
Hibbert.
Let's see. I'm gonna go with this. So this is my last pick, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Maury Spates.
Mo Spates.
Oh wow! Didn't even make it on my list.
He probably shouldn't have.
It's just those 2 years in Golden State, man. I get it. That dude was killer.
No, on the Clippers, he was good too.
Yeah.
Mo Buckets, baby.
Mo Buckets.
Was he on the Clippers? Yeah, he was on the Clippers.
You said that with such confidence earlier.
Well, I was like, I see him in a Clippers uniform, but dude, in those Golden State years, he was like, there would be
he was
some
a thunder
games.
killer, man. Dude, I hated him so much.
That was like right when they were starting to get good too, and he would just come off the bench and have some games where he just couldn't miss, just taking the dumbest shots.
Yeah,
And his
unguardable for the
stupid
Thunder.
face, man. He has such a stupid face. I loved when he would just go off.
He played with Billy Donovan. How about that, man? I didn't realize he was a Gator.
he's a Gator.
Wow.
Taylor, close your
Wow.
eyes and spell his first name.
I know it's weird. Marre. I don't know if there's an A here. Let's just go EASE.
It's really close. Way
Close.
closer than I would have gotten.
MARREESE.
Oh, double REE.
Yeah.
Maurice.
Maurice.
That's really good.
So, Andrew, you got the 14th pick.
14th pick.
Final pick of the lottery.
I've got some guys. DJ Augustine is still on the board, still playing, still relevant. Was good.
Ryan Anderson,
Ryan Anderson,
Got
JaVale
Robin
McGee.
Lopez.
Pekovic,
Rolo.
Luke Richard and Bob Mute in this draft. Roy Hibbert. Did Roy Hibbert win Deep Boy?
God, talk
No,
about
he was close though, wasn't he?
what happened to him? He was like
Oh, dude,
The-
talk about a dinosaur, man.
the center to have.
I'm going to take Roy Hibbert for this reason. He made the All-Star team twice.
He was the guy, man. He really was the guy.
Nobody
it was
else did that. That's left.
he was like the LeBron solving agent.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I remember thinking, I wish we had Roy Hibbert on the Thunder.
Yeah.
And that was a real thought to have at the time.
God,
He
that's
was
crazy.
he aged quick, man. He was so slow laterally.
He was too slow.
It just was.
But
That was a
for-
great draft. There's a bunch of guys that we let. Like, there's a bunch of guys left in that draft that still had good careers.
Yeah, Mario Chalmers
Mm-hmm.
as well. Yeah, I mean, it was a good draft. There's a lot of really good players, like above average role players in this draft. And then, but really probably the only guy that makes the Hall of Fame is Westbrook. Right?
Yeah. It could have been Rose.
Could have been.
Actually, I think
been
maybe it could have been Love too.
Could have been both.
Could
Yeah,
still
that is the crazy thing. Like, if Love stayed at Minnesota and got those Gotti numbers, like, is there a chance that he would have made the Hall of Fame even without the championship?
I still think he can make the Hall of Fame now.
Huh.
I don't think the numbers have. I think you're thinking too much about the numbers, Jamon.
Thinking too much about the numbers, Jamon.
Oh man.
All right, boys. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah. I
Next
think-
week we'll get back. We'll do the next year's draft, the 2009 draft, and we will finish or continue on in our book Boomtown by Sam Anderson. You definitely can catch up in a week. It's easy to get where we are, so jump in and read that. And yeah,
Yep. Go get at
my-
the Mule and enjoy. They have a deal right now where
a
you
burger special, man.
yeah, it's like 4 burgers and like a large fry and a large tot for like $24.
You
Yep.
can also buy wine and 6 packs of mix and match to go.
Oh,
So hook up local. And I know wine for sure, and I think 6 packs mix and
Yeah.
match. So
Yeah,
don't
right.
quote me on that. But
the Mule OKC on Twitter and Instagram.
yep,
Well,
and the Mule Edmond if you're an Edmond.
It's great. Gotta go check out the Mule Edmond. All right,
Do it.
do it.
Okay, my next pick was going to be Patrick Ewing Jr., who was the 43rd overall pick.
Yeah.
And then the next one was going to be Alexis Ajinça. Remember him?
Yeah, he looks like Stewie Griffin.
Yeah, I did.
And then
Wow,
Kyle
dude.
Weaver was next.
Yeah, Kyle Weaver. We didn't even mention Costa Koopas.
You're right.
Koufos actually carved out like a decent career. Like, never really worth anything.